Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Chacon. Welcome to Couch Potato Lucha Libre, and it's time for a Lucha Libre history lesson. Now, I really wanted to start off this series with a bang. I wanted to go forth to the Mount Rushmore of Lucha Libre, if you will. Now, if you don't know who that is, that would be El Santo, Blue Demon, Mil Máscaras, and, of course, today's subject, El Huracan Ramirez. Now, weirdly enough, with El Huracan Ramirez, you gotta talk about the movies, you have to talk about everything else that goes with them, but that's where you have to start, because unfortunately, that character didn't exist until the 1952 movie, Huracan Ramirez. Now, in this movie, your protagonist, Fernando, is a lounge singer who moonlights as a pro wrestler to help his dad and his sisters because his dad is a bad pro wrestler. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's a good plot for a decent movie. It's about an hour of your time. Now, the man behind the mask in that movie is an actor, stuntman, and wrestler by the name of Eduardo Bonada. Now, he would choose not to take the mantle up after the movie because he didn't want to wear a mask. I mean, it's only one of the most famous masks in all of Lucha Libre. Why wouldn't you want to wear it? Oh, nope, figured it out. Got it. So what do you do if the star you created doesn't want to be a part of the star vehicle you created for them? Well, you hold an audition if you're movie producer Joselito Rodriguez Mas. He ended up choosing a guy by the name of Daniel Garcia Arteaga. He was a wrestler already, going by the name Chico Garcia, or Buitre Blanco, the White Vulture. Now, according to my research, he actually exists in the Huracan Ramirez movie. I haven't been able to find him though. He made his debut in 1953 in Mexico City against El Médico Asesino, which, for perspective, at the time would have been like what happened with Shelton Benjamin after the 2004 draft, where he debuted against Triple H mid-Reign of Terror and beat him clean. Now, throughout his matches and throughout all of his wrestling, he was seen as a very smooth performer. He earned the nickname El Príncipe de Seda, the Prince of Silk, and he had high-flying moves which people derided as him just jumping around the ring. As you can tell, we have not evolved much as wrestling fans in 70 years. Now, obviously, chief amongst his arsenal is La Huracan Rana, which is the head scissor takeover, but it has to have the pin on the end, because if not, it's just a head scissor takeover or Frankensteiner. Because he was unlike other slower wrestlers at the time, he instantly became a sensation and a popular técnico, that would be the term for a babyface, in Empresa Mexicana de Lucha Libre, the current day CMLL, working alongside such luminaries as El Solitario, Ray Mendoza, and a freshly heel-turned El Santo. I did not realize El Santo had a heel turn. Learn something new every day, I guess. Now, as the years went on, Garcia Arteaga, who was well known for his style at the time, created a character who would constantly put his mask on the line in Lucha de Apuestas. This would mean that it would be mask versus hair, so anytime he came to town, you knew that he was putting it up against some local who would inevitably lose his hair or lose his mask. Now, when Francisco Flores and Ray Mendoza broke away from EMLL to form what would become the Universal Wrestling Association, they had to have a big, high-profile signee. And of course, if you're watching this video, that means it has to be an Huracan Ramirez. In the later years of his career, Huracan Ramirez would actually become known for 6-man tag team matches with guys like El Santo and Rayo de Jalisco, facing off up against heels just for the fun of it. Now, I learned something whenever I do these videos too, and in my research I found that during a 6-man tag with Rayo de Jalisco and El Santo, Huracan Ramirez actually stopped the match because El Santo suffered this little thing we like to call a heart attack. He's a hero, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, sadly enough, with all good things, they have to come to an end. The time was drawing near for Huracan Ramirez, and he wanted to leave his legacy for somebody else. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to, because of the deal that he had signed with Joselito Rodriguez Mas, you know, the producer of the movie from back at the beginning of the video. As it turns out, they owned the character. They owned all his rights, and they owned all his residuals. So unfortunately, unlike El Hijo del Santo and Blue Demon Jr., there wouldn't be an Huracan Ramirez Jr. Now, this didn't stop Garcia Arteaga from trying to leave his mark as El Huracan Ramirez as he had the last 30 years. What he did was break rule number 1 of Lucha Libre. He would take off his mask in front of live crowds to make sure that they would remember his face in order to kind of strike up and keep his legacy alive. Now, of course, if you're a producer of a movie and have to replace a character, typically you'd have another audition. And there were attempts at making another Huracan Ramirez, But they didn't succeed because there was a man already positioned as el Huracan Ramirez. His birth name was Daniel García Arteaga. You still see Ciclón Hernández, Huracan Ramirez Jr., Hijo de Huracan Ramirez. I think there's actually one that is his son or his nephew, but nobody owns the name except for the producers. García Arteaga retired from the ring in 1987 in his home venue, El Toreo de Cuatro Caminos in Mexico City. He'd also become the head of the Commission of Lucha Libre and Boxing in Mexico City, which isn't like Commissioner Foley or Commissioner Ernest the Cat Miller. He was actually in charge of when shows were booked, of rules, and of making sure that people followed the regulations for the city. Sadly, Daniel García Arteaga passed away on October 31st, 2006, depriving the world of the last great from the golden era of Lucha Libre films. Little did he know that he'd leave behind a legacy based on his signature move, which to this day is one of the greatest ways to get a high flyer and have their reactions take over a match. There are some people in the world of Lucha Libre who never get their due. You know, we're not talking El Santo or Blue Demon or Mil Máscaras. To me, Huracan Ramirez is definitely the forgotten one amongst Mount Rushmore of Lucha Libre. And I think if this points you in the right direction to see some of his films or see some of his matches, I've done my job. My name is Tony Chacon. This is Couch Potato Lucha Libre. We'll see you guys next time. Hey everybody, I want to thank you for tuning in for this episode of Lucha Libre History Lesson. I had a lot of fun making it, and you know, we're just starting out. So I do want to go ahead and thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments, if you want to let me know who I should cover next, feel free. Now, of course, join me next time. I'm actually covering Brian Kendrick and Paul London as WWE Tag Team Champions, which is an interesting story. But, you know what? Follow me on Twitter. I do have a Patreon open. We'll see you guys next time, alright?